You're standing on the sun-baked slopes of the Acropolis, the air thick with the scent of olive groves crushed under marching feet, dust rising like a shroud over the white marble steps. Your hands clutch the rough wool of your chiton, fingers slick with sweat as the horizon darkens with a sea of spears. 10,000, 20, 100,000 Persian shafts glinting like the teeth of some colossal beast. The wind carries the low rumble of war drums, a heartbeat that drowns the distant bleat of goats, and the faint chant of priestesses invoking Athena's name in the shadowed erechtheion. Salt stings your lips from the Saronic Gulf below, where triremes bob like driftwood against the Persian armada's shadow. The ground trembles beneath your sandals, not from quake, but from the advance of immortals, their golden apple banners snapping in the hot September breeze of 480 BC. You taste bile, the sour edge of fear mingling with the incense smoke curling from braziers where sacred fires have burned since Theseus's day. They crest the ridge now, faces painted with woad, eyes hard as onyx under pointed helmets, their cloaks embroidered with lions that seem to prowl in the heat haze. The priestesses beside you, women of unblemished lineage, their hair bound in fillets of gold, bodies veiled in peplos, dyed sacred purple, whisper prayers that falter as the first arrow whistles past, embedding in the pediment with a crack like breaking bone. Your heart pounds against your ribs, the world narrowing to the creak of bowstrings and the acrid bite of pitch-soaked torches being lit. They don't know yet that this is no mere siege, but the unraveling of the divine order itself, where the immortals will not just conquer flesh but profane the very breath of the gods. Before we go further, I need to be transparent. What you're about to hear involves extreme acts of violence, including the impious defilement of sacred spaces and the implied fates of women serving as priestesses in Athens' temples during the Persian occupation. These details draw from primary sources like Herodotus's Histories, corroborated by archaeological layers of destruction on the Acropolis and accounts in Plutarch and Aeschylus, but they remain deeply disturbing, evoking the terror of war's unchecked brutality. If this content feels too raw, if it stirs echoes you'd rather not confront, I completely understand. Stepping away, there's profound strength in knowing your limits and no shame in preserving your peace. For those continuing, know that my commitment is to gravity and truth, not spectacle. We'll illuminate the machinery of empire that enabled such horrors, the vast logistics of conquest, the cultural clash of divine pieties, not to dwell in the agony, but to trace how power, when absolute, devour sanctity. These aren't tales for thrill, they're etched warnings, etched in ash and marble, reminding us that the line between civilization and barbarism is often drawn in the blood of the faithful. The voices of those priestesses, though fragmented, echo through time, urging us to question what systems today still permit the erasure of the sacred. This wasn't a clash of titans born from divine whim or heroic folly, the stuff of epic songs where gods meddle and mortals strut. This was a machine oiled by tribute from 100 satrapies, geared with the unyielding calculus of empire, where Athens, that upstart democracy of potters and philosophers, became a ledger entry in Xerxes' grand design to avenge Marathon's sting. The Persian Immortals, those elite 10,000 whose ranks never dipped below strength, handpicked for loyalty and ferocity, didn't storm the Acropolis in a frenzy of bloodlust. They executed a protocol of psychological erasure, turning Athena's hill into a pyre not just of stone, but of the Greek soul's inviolable core. Herodotus, writing half a century later from eyewitness whispers, captures the shock rippling through Hellas, not the burning walls, but the desecration within, where suppliants clutching olive branches were cut down amid altars, and the sacred virgins, those kanephoroi and hierodouloi, sworn to the virgin goddess, faced fates that blurred the veil between mortal violation and cosmic outrage. What the world recoiled from wasn't mere conquest's collateral, it was the deliberate profanation of purity, the immortals' boots, trampling fillets and hearth flames, their hands adorned with the gold of subjugated kings, reaching into the sanctum, sanctorum, to claim what even gods held untouchable. Reframe it thus. This occupation of September 480 BC, when Xerxes' host swallowed Attica like a locust swarm, wasn't the barbaric eruption of Eastern hordes against Western light, as later rhetorics would paint it. No, this was empire's cold arithmetic, meeting democracy's fervent piety, where the sacred virgins of Athens embodied not just chastity, but the city's unyielding claim to divine favor. Their defilement, implied in the plundering shadows rather than spelled in lurid detail by our sources, shocked Hellas because it targeted the system's heart, the belief that temples were neutral ground, inviolate under Zeus Senios's gaze. Plutarch, centuries on, echoes the outrage in his Life of Themistocles, noting how the news ignited Salamis's fleet like dry tinder, turning evacuation's despair into vengeful steel. The central question isn't whether you can stomach the mechanics of that machine, the endless march of phalanxes, the siege engines grinding olive presses into dust, but whether you're willing to remember it, to see in those flames the blueprint for every occupation since. From Persepolis' own torching by Alexander to modern sieges, where civilians huddle in desecrated shrines. The stakes were existential. Athens, that rocky outcrop of 30,000 souls, had dared in 492 BC to back the Ionian revolt, sending triremes to torch Sardis's groves, a slap that festered into Darius's aborted marathon lunge, then Xerxes' vengeance, a decade in forging. By 480, Persia's Achaemenid machine hummed with efficiency. Satraps in Lydia and Babylon funneled grain via royal roads stretching 1,500 miles, while engineers lashed Hellespont bridges from flax and papyrus, ferrying 200,000 infantry and 2,000 vessels under a canopy of fear. Economic calculus drove its silver mines at Thrace, bankrolled the host, while Athens' silver at Laurion funded its 200-ship navy, a gamble on wood over stone walls. Social hierarchies clashed like symbols. Persian nobles, layered in diadems and kinships tracing to Cyrus, viewed Greeks as fractious peasants. Athenians, fresh from Cleisthenes' tribes, saw in their agora the birth of isonomia, equality under law, guarded by Athena's aegis. Military tides shifted at Artemisium's gales, where Greek rams bloodied Persian hulls, but yielded ground, funneling the hordes south through Thessaly's passes, where menacing allies opened gates like traitors at a feast. Yet the true horror germinated in the psychological warfare, subtle as poison in wine. Xerxes, advised by defectors like Demaratus, didn't just aim to raise, he sought to unmake. Propaganda preceded Boots envoys demanding earth and water from every polis, a ritual submission that choked spirits before swords did throats. In Athens, the oracle at Delphi spat ambiguity. "Why sit you, luckless one, in the land of the sacred olive tree?" prompting Themistocles' twist to naval salvation. But for the Acropolis holdouts, poverty pinned them. Farmers too rooted to flee, oracle, bound to defend the wooden palisade atop Athena's rock. Archaeological digs in the 19th century, led by Heinrich Schliemann's successors, unearthed the Persian destruction layer, charred ivory friezes, arrowheads fused to marble, a stratigraphic scar 18 inches deep across the old temple of Athena. These events are attested in Herodotus's Histories, Book 8, corroborated by Aeschylus's Persians, performed in 472 BC to cathartic gasps and Plutarch's moral dissections, with Diodorus Siculus adding logistical echoes from lost Ctesias fragments. Recent scholarship, like Robert Garland's Athens Burning, 2017, passes the evacuation's chaos, estimating 20,000 refugees clogging Salamis's strand, while infrared spectroscopy on Acropolis pottery shards dates the blaze to late summer 480. No rush to judgment here. Sources converge on the sack's reality, though numbers swell like rumors Herodotus's 300,000 Persians, a probable hyperbole for 100,000 per modern demographers. The world watched, or rather, Hellas trembled, as Thebes medized and Sparta dithered at the isthmus, their wall a futile scar across Corinth's neck. Economic ripples, Persian tribute stalled Greek trade, potters' kilns cold, while in Susa, scribes tallied Athenian tripods as spoils. Political climate? A tinderbox of pan-Hellenism versus local feuds, where Athens' navy bet became the fulcrum. Social strata fractured Thetes, rode for pay, Eupatrids commanded. Women like the priestesses, from noble lines, wove the peplos for Panathenaia, their vows a bulwark against chaos. To grasp what befell those sacred virgins, women like Lysandra, 22 summers old, daughter of a Laurian miner, her skin olive dark from tending hearth fires, you must first dissect the machine that birthed Xerxes, the man who loosed it. He wasn't forged in cruelty's cradle, but manufactured in the foundry of divine kingship, where Achaemenid bloodlines twisted filial piety into imperial mandate. Born 519 BC in Persepolis' rose gardens, amid ziggurats stepped like frozen waves, Xerxes entered a world where Ahura Mazda's fire-ordained rule. His father, Darius, ascended not by birthright but coup slaying the magus Gaumata in 522 BC, a tale Herodotus spins with dramatic flair, claiming divine eagle omens. Darius, broad-shouldered with a beard oiled black, personality forged in Scythian campaigns, ruthless yet administrative, etching Behistун's cliff with trilingual boasts of 19 battles won. He doted on young Xerxes, parading him before satraps in Susa's halls, where lapis walls echoed with lyre and zither. But family dynamics curdled early. Brothers like Artabanus, sly-eyed counselor, vied for favor. Their mother, Atossa, daughter of Cyrus the Great, sharp-tongued and ambitious, whispering of legacy's weight. The throne is no inheritance, she might have said, her veils scented with saffron, but a seizure, like your father's. Xerxes, tall as a cedar, eyes deep-set like his forebears, absorbed it. Childhood romps in Ecbatana's orchards gave way to lessons in archery, where arrows pierced apple cores at 50 paces. Symbol of precision rule, the losses came in descending toll, each carving deeper into the boy who would be king. Family numbered 9 siblings at peak Darius's brood by Atossa and others, but plague and plot whittled them. First, in 510 BC, brother Mecistes, boisterous hunter with a laugh like thunder, perished in Egyptian sands during Darius's Nile push, his body returned in salt, a tale Plutarch later moralizes as hubris's price. Xerxes, then 9, watched the funeral pyre from Pasargadai's terrace, flames leaping 20 feet, the smoke tasting of myrrh and regret, his small hands clutching Atossa's as she murmured of fragile thrones. Mecistes' death left 8, a void filled by Xerxes' promotion over elder Artabazanes Atossa's intrigue, ensuring pure Cyrus blood on the diadem. Next, 505 BC, sister Artazostra, delicate as a gazelle, her personality woven of quiet devotions to Anahita's shrines, succumbed to fever in Babylon's heat, her chambers heavy with physicians' failed herbs. Xerxes, 14 now, wandered her empty garden, plucking wilted lotuses, the loss etching isolation. Family shrank to 7, Atossa's grip tightening like a noose. Darius, ever the organizer, dispatched him to Sardis for satrapal tutelage under Hystaspes, but en route, brother Ariaramnes, scholarly, map-obsessed, personality, a blend of curiosity and caution, fell to bandits in Cappadocia's passes, his head delivered in a basket, eyes pecked by crows. The report reached Xerxes in a way station's gloom, parchment-stained, his stomach churning as he retched into a bronze basin. 6 left, the road's peril now personal. By 499 BC, the Ionian revolt's sparks flew, and with them, more blows. Brother Abracomes, warrior type with scars from Parthian skirmishes, his joviality, a tavern staple among guards, charged to suppress Aristagoras' uprising, but perished at Ephesus's gates, skewered by Greek spears, body stripped and displayed. Xerxes, 20, learned via relay riders, the message unrolling like a death sentence. Atossa wept in Susa, her silks torn, while he trained harder, bowstrings snapping against calluses, family at 5 a hollow chorus. Then, 497 BC, the gravest, Darius himself, campaigning against Scythians, collapsed in Thracian mud, heart seized mid-command, his final rasp, avenge the Greeks. The cortege dragged back over months, embalmed in wax and spices, Persepolis' halls silent as Xerxes, 22, ascended amid eunuchs' wails. Mother Atossa lingered 2 years more, her personality eroded to frail commands, dying in 495 BC of grief's slow poison, her deathbed plea, rule as Cyrus, not as pretender. 4 siblings gone, Xerxes alone with brothers Hystaspes and Artabanus, the machine's gears meshing in his veins. Psychological stages unfolded. Childhood's security to adolescent loss's armor, each death a layer of detachment, transforming boyish vigor into king's resolve ruthless in Egypt's revolt crushing, 484 BC, where he crucified leaders, eyes averted from the crow's feast. Herodotus notes something chilling. Xerxes was the greatest engineer of bridges, but the feeblest of hearts when fortune turned. The transformation crested in 481 BC, Persepolis' audience hall, where envoys from medicine Greeks knelt, offering earth. Xerxes stood, diadem heavy, surveying maps unrolled on cedar tables, the air thick with frankincense. "The Ionians erred at Sardis," he declared, voice steady as a herald's, "but Athens will kneel or burn." Advisors nodded, Demaratus warning of Greek valor, Artabanus urging caution, but the machine whirred on, royal roads mobilized, immortals drilled in apple orchards. And then everything changed. The Hellespont's storm snapped bridges thrice. Omen's Xerxes quelled by flogging waves, 300 lashes and a brand thrown in, priests chanting to appease the sea's wrath. No longer the manufactured prince, now the god-king, his pathologies crystallized paranoia in nightly guards, megalomania in canal, digging around Athos. The boy who lost brothers to plots now plotted erasure. Athens not a city but a wound to cauterize. In that moment, atop Pasargade's tomb, wind whipping his purple robe, he whispered to the stars, "Father, witness your son's bridge to glory." The machine lurched forward, immortals' spears lowered, toward a hill where virgins prayed in vain. What I'm about to describe isn't the random savagery of foot soldiers drunk on victory wine. It's a system 5 deliberate phases, each calibrated to dismantle not just stone and sinew, but the Greek spirit's scaffolding, piety, community, memory, resistance, legacy. The immortals, those unbreakable 10,000, led each, their golden apples mocking Athena's olive. Herodotus charts the progression, from siege to pyre, a choreography of conquest meant to echo through generations. This wasn't about Xerxes' whim, it was protocol, assets inventoried temples as propaganda coups, virgins as symbols to shatter. They didn't seek martyrs. Martyrs rally oars at Salamis. They engineered ghosts, whispers in the wind where chants once rose. First came the encirclement, a noose drawn slow under a harvest moon's indifferent gaze. September 21, 480 BC, the air hummed with cicadas' last chorus, temperatures dipping to a clammy 70 degrees as dew slicked the time-scented slopes. The Acropolis, that sheer crag rising 512 feet from Attica's plain, loomed like a goddess's brow, its northern cliffs sheer as judgment, southern approaches, gated by Mycenaean walls, patched with Themistocles' haste. 200 holdouts, mostly poor Thetes, beardless youths and grizzled elders, clad in threadbare chitons belted with leather, spears scavenged from Marathon's dead, barricaded the gates, their faces gaunt from rationed barley, breaths fogging in torchlight. Politically, Themistocles' envoys parleyed futilely at Xerxes' camp near Phaleron, 5 miles south, where 300,000 souls sprawled in ordered tents, cooks ladling lentil stew over saffron rice, the Gulf's brine mingling with horse dung's reek. Elsewhere, Sparta's kings Leonidas and Leotychides quarreled at the isthmus, their wall half-built, while refugees choked Salamis's beaches, women's wails harmonizing with gulls. The immortals arrived at dawn, 10,000 strong under hidans, their scale-mail hauberks glinting, quivers stocked with Median arrows fletched in peacock. They formed a cordon 2 miles wide, archers loosing volleys that pattered like hail on olive leaves, the twang echoing off Hymettus's honeyed flanks. Sensory assault built, the crunch of pomegranates under boots, the metallic tang of unbloodied bronze, textures of rough-hewn limestone, yielding to probing ladders. Among the defenders huddled Lysandra, 24, a hierodulos of Athena Polius, her background woven from Eleusis' mysteries, daughter of a potter, widowed by Marathon. She entered service at 14, her days spent grinding barley for sacred cakes, nights chanting Homeric hymns under star-pricked skies. Tall, with braids coiled like serpents under her stephane, she thought of her absent brother rowing for Themistocles, his last letter clutched in her pouch. "Hold the aegis high, sister." Tension coiled as Persian heralds shouted terms in broken Greek, voices booming over braziers' crackle. The immortals probed the western gate, scaling parties slipping on scree, dislodged by boulders tumbling like avalanches, thudding into ranks below. Lysandra passed waterskins, her hands steady despite the quiver in her throat, dry as summer dust. One assault crested noon. A ram of olive logs, sheathed in hide, battered the cyclopean blocks, the boom reverberating through her bones, while arrows whistled, one grazing her arm, drawing a hot line of red. Defenders repulsed them thrice, spears thrusting from crenels. But night fell with Persian fires encircling like wolves' eyes, the smell of roasting lamb taunting empty bellies. No breach yet. but the system ground on archers' volleys, conserving immortals for the kill, psychological siege wearing resolve like waves on pebbles. This opening gambit wasn't Haydn's improvisation. It revealed Empire's layered power structures, where immortals, as shock troops, mask the horde's bulk, satraps like Artabazus logging logistics in cuneiform tallies. It fit broader patterns. Cyrus at Babylon's gates, Darius at Indus, fords encirclement to induce surrender, sparing manpower for the march to Corinth. Modern parallels sting. Think siege tactics in Aleppo or Sarajevo, where cordons starve spirits before steel strikes. UN reports echoing Herodotus in their dry horror. Scholars debate the holdouts' numbers. Herodotus is 400 men, a rhetorical flourish. Archaeology suggesting fewer from arrowhead counts, but the impiety's seed was sown. Persians, Zoroastrian fire worshippers, eyeing Greek idols with disdain, their magi muttering of devas. Long-term, it frayed Boeotia's loyalties, Thebans whispering of hubris even as they medised. They didn't want heroes hurling rocks. They wanted capitulation, the Acropolis's surrender a message to Delphi's oracle mongers. By eroding the defenders' perimeter, the system began dismantling the social fabric families, sundered in evacuation. Priestesses like Lysandra, isolated from the agora's bustle, their vows now shields in a godless fray. The machine hummed, unhurried, turning sacred ground profane, one arrow at a time. In that cordon's shadow, Greek piety rooted in Xenoi's bonds cracked, foreshadowing the temple's fall. Ghosts, not graves, were the goal. Silence, the sweetest spoil. But the encirclement held only so long. Pressure mounted like storm clouds over the Aegean. By the third day, October's chill nipped at 60 degrees. Mists rolling from the Ilissos like Athena's breath turned sour. The air laced with the rot of unburied mules felled by Greek slingers. The Acropolis's eastern approaches, less sheer, drew the immortals' focus now, where a wooden palisade hastily felled pines from parns. Smelling of resin and desperation, guarded the Propylaia's ruins. Holdouts numbered perhaps 150 now. Wounds bandaged with torn himmations, their weapons notched, faces shadowed by stubble and smoke. Politically, word reached Salamis. Themistocles faint, false deserters, urging Persian pursuit. But here on the rock, isolation reigned, the Gulf's distant clamor, a mocking lullaby. Persian camp buzzed engineers testing mantlets of wicker and hide, their creak like old men's joints, while cooks stirred vats of garum fish sauce, the brine's tang cutting the ever-present sweat. Haydn's, stern-jawed with a scar bisecting his brow from Lydian wars, directed from a dais of looted carts, his cloak pinned with a Sasanian talk. The immortals, rotated in shifts, their linen trousers dust-caked, advanced under arrow storm, the twang-thud rhythm a dirge. Irene, 28, kanephoroi's elect at last. Panathenaia stood among them background of noble stock. Her father, an archon exiled for debt, she chose service over marriage, her personality fierce as Eris, eyes grey as storm clouds, hands calloused from weaving the goddess's robe. She thought of her nieces, evacuated to Trozen, their laughter haunting her vigils. Protect the hearth, her mother urged, a phrase now bitter. Tension peaked at midday. Persian sappers tunneled under walls, the scrape of picks vibrating through stone, while catapults crude precursors, hurling stones the weight of men smashed palisades, shards flying like pottery in a quake. Irene lit incense at a makeshift altar, myrrh's sweet smoke curling against the cordite bite of pitch, her throat parched from chants halted by cries. An immortal squad scaled the north cliff, ropes fraying on thorns, dislodged by boiling pitch poured from heights, the sizzle and screams rising like steam from Phlegethon. Defenders held, spears couched, but fatigue gnawed sleep, snatched in shifts, dreams of Marathon's ghosts urging hold. Night brought flares, immortals' fires tracing a noose tighter, the wind carrying Persian flutes' wail, eerie counterpoint to Greek lyres silenced below. This phase exposed the system's ingenuity, not brute force, but attrition's art. Immortals as precision tools in a vast network of supply, Egyptian rowers ferrying arrows from the fleet. It mirrored Darius's Scythian pursuits in circle, exhaust, extract fealty patterns etched in Babylonian reliefs. Contemporary lenses sharpen, like Gaza's blockades, where aid trickles mock mercy, amnesty logs paralleling Herodotus's subtext. Debates rage in classics. Journals did the palisade truly exist, or Herodotus's flourish? Pottery scatters say yes, charred timbers under Erechthion's base. Societally, it unraveled hierarchies. Priestesses, once veiled icons, now hauled stones, their purity's protocol bent to survival. Impacts lingered. Athens' post-war cults emphasized resilience, annual commemorations at Thesion, invoking the siege's shades. The machine didn't just besiege bodies, it starved souls, turning communal ekphoria into solitary dread. By profaning the weight, it presaged the breach's blasphemy. Immortals, not conquerors, but erasers, sacred virgins' chants fading to whimpers. The social weave tore further, threads of family and faith pulled taut, ready to snap in the temple's embrace. What happened next reveals the fracture's depth, the machine's pivot from patience to precision strike. Fifth day dawned crisp, October's light slanting gold across Ilyssos' willows, temperatures hovering at 55, a mist that clung like regret to cloaks stiff with dew. The Acropolis' southern ramp, broadest vulnerability, faced the onslaught, its gates bronze-bound oak from Laurian pines, barred with crossbeams hewn in panic. Defenders dwindled to 80, limbs leaden from thirst, lips cracked as old parchment, their armor patchwork of leather and hope. From Salamis, smoke signals flickered futile Aristides, the Just's runners blocked by medicing Eleusinians, while in Persia's van, Mardonius conferred with Xerxes' couriers. The camp's din, a babble of Median, carrion tongues, over flatbreads charred on braziers. The air reeked of unwashed wool and horseflesh, textures of mud churned to slurry under 10,000 boots. Immortals massed, quivers full, their pointed bows recurved like scorpions' tails, led by Datis' kin, face impassive under a helm crested with ibex horn. Among them, Calliope, 19 just past majority, Hiera of the Old Temple, her lineage from Salaminian fisherfolk, entered vows at 16 after a fever claimed her kin, her spirit quiet as a loom shuttle, eyes hazel flecked with green, hands soft from oiling lamps. She pondered her unfinished tapestry Athena birthing from Zeus's brow, needles poised mid-stitch whispering to Artemis for swift arrows. Tension crested with the ram's return, logs swinging in a cradle of ropes, the thud echoing like doomsaying drums, dust clouds billowing to choke the Sunday. Calliope distributed amphorae of vinegar water, its sour bite a luxury, her pulse racing as ladders reared, immortals clambering with shields locked, the clatter of bronze on stone a frenzy. A breach yawned at noon, sappers collapsed a section, debris cascading, defenders spearing climbers who tumbled screaming, bodies piling like cordwood. The fight spilled inward, swords clashing in the Pelasgian's shade, blood's copper tang mixing with Myrtle's crush underfoot. Holdouts fell back to the temple precinct, gates splintering under axe's bite, but the immortals pressed, their discipline a wall, no rout but inexorable tide. This breach wasn't chaos. It laid bare the power's architecture, immortals as elite enforcers in a hierarchy where satraps deferred to magi, Zoroastrian rites blessing the assault as deiva, slaying. It echoed Babylon's 539 full-target sanctums to break resistance reliefs at Naqsh-e-Rustam depicting such. Today, it mirrors urban assaults in Mosul, where ISIS defiled Nimrud, UNESCO reports tracing the playbook. Plutarch debates the date Herodotus' lunar eclipse, aligning with NASA models to Sept 25, but the sacrilege's core endures, arrows in sacred groves. Society splintered further, priestesses' roles inverting from ritual to rampart, their erasure a blow to matrilineal cults. Echoes in post-trauma. Athens' Hyacinthian festivals adapted, honoring siege dead. The system sought not victory's roar, but submission's hush. Immortals advance a scalpel to the Greek heart, virgin's sanctity, the first cut. Fabric frayed to threads, piety's loom unspooling in the temple's forecourt. On the sixth day, the pivot to profanation, the machine's cruelest gear, engaging under a sky-bruised purple by dusk's approach. Temperatures plunged to 50, wind from palms whipping olive branches into frenzy, the air sharp with pine resin from toppled palisades, and the faint, acrid hint of unlit pyres. The temple precinct, heart of the old Athenaean marble-fluted columns rising 30 feet, pediments carved with Gorgon's snarls became the final redoubt, its altars heaped with suppliants' boughs, olive and laurel twisted in desperate knots. Fewer than 50 remained, many wounded, their chitons rent and bloodied, breaths ragged as bellows in the sanctuary's gloom. Politically, Themistocles' oracle twist, trust the wooden walls filtered via pigeon. But here, despair reigned. The Gulf's waves, a distant roar, mocking isolation. Persian lines tightened. Immortals' tents pitched within arrow shot. Their evening meal of pistachios and yogurt, disturbed by soothsayers' bleats of favorable winds. Textures abounded. The cool slick of marble under palms, the rough weave of suppliant fillets binding wrists. Sophia, 26, priestess of the Erechthion's salt pool, from Achanes vineyards, joined at 18 after her betrothed fell at Marathon, her demeanor serene as a libation's pour. Voice a melody for nocturnal rites, dark curls pinned with asphodel. She envisioned her aged father's farm, vines heavy with unharvested grapes, murmuring to Poseidon for quake to swallow the foe. Tension boiled as immortals massed at the west gate. Rams silenced for subtlety, sappers' picks whispering under foundations, the grind like teeth on bone. Sophia led a final procession, torches sputtering resinous smoke, their circle chant Athena Nike, shield us faltering as arrows arced, one felling a youth at her side, his gasp wet and final. The breach came sudden. Flames from Greek pitch ignited Persian mantlets, but winds shifted, carrying fire back. A momentary rout turned tide as immortals surged, swords drawn. The clash, a cacophony of bronze and cries. Suppliants rushed altars, branches aloft, but the elite pressed, blades parting flesh in the Holy of Holies. The sacrilege, a thunderclap blood on white Chianos tiles, once trod by Theseus. This incursion unveiled the system's theological core. Persians, scorning polytheism, viewed Greek gods as idols to topple. Magi, purifying with urine sprays post. Assault, a ritual, Herodotus mocks. It patterned Susa's temple raisings under Cambyses, desecrate, to delegitimize. Now, in Ukraine's Kherson, Orthodox sites shelled evoke the same, Human Rights Watch noting the psyop. Aeschylus, survivor of Salamis, laments in Persians the hubris. Lunar dating confirmed by Babylonian tablets. Hierarchies inverted. Virgins, once untouchable, now barriers breached, their fall eroding civic cults. Long-term, it birthed Areopagus reforms, piety's rebuild in stone. Not individuals slain, but the divine contract severed immortals as agents of erasure, ghosts seeded in sacred blood. The weave dissolved, threads of faith snapped, leaving Athens naked before the pyre. While the precinct fell in crimson stutter, the final phase ignited, the machine's inferno consummating conquest under a moon silver as a shekel. Seventh night, air cooling to 45, frost rhyming the Ilissos' reeds, the wind a howl carrying Gulf gale's salt, and the first whiffs of smoke from kindled brands. The Erechtheion and Athenaeon, twin sanctums with triglyph friezes depicting giants' root, stood gutted, columns cracked like ribs, altars slick with offerings turned profane. Barely 20 souls clung priestesses and stragglers, robes torn to rags, faces ashen as they huddled in Naos shadows. From afar, Salamis stirred, Themistocles' ruse drawing Persians seaward, but here, end neared, the plain's campfires a galaxy mocking solitude. Immortals, bloodied but unbowed, herded spoils, ivory statues, golden fiale onto carts groaning under weight, their laughter guttural over wine amphorae cracked from hasty looting. The reek of pitch and cedar mingled with iron's bite, textures of charred linen clinging to skin. Thecla, 21, newly vowed to Athena's cult from Piraeus Dox's kin, her background humble daughter of a steersman lost at Artemisium, she found purpose in lamp trimming, personality buoyant as a trireme sail, freckles dusting her nose. She recalled her brother's tales of Persian envoys' arrogance, vowing silently to outlast. Tension peaked as torches flared. Immortals, under torchlight's flicker, torched the old temple first. Flames leaping 50 feet, the roar drowning pleas, heat blistering paint from metopes. Thecla shielded a wounded elder, her veil singed, lungs searing from smoke's claw, eyes watering as beams crashed, sparks dancing like daimons. The blaze spread to the Erechtheion, sacred olive withering in the conflagration, a symbol's death, its trunk, planted by Athena, curling black. Priestesses scattered, some leaping cliffs in final defiance, bodies shattering on rocks below, while others were led away into night, the silence after screams of void deeper than Ilissos. Pyres consumed precinct and walls. The Acropolis, a beacon visible 20 miles, ash snowing over Attica's fields. This conflagration exposed empire's symbolic arsenal, fire as purifier in Zoroastrian lore, twisted to desecrate. Herodotus noting Magi's chants amid flames. It echoed Arbella's burning's temples as morale breakers. Today, Palmyra's arch felled by Daesh parallels, Ecomos decrying cultural genocide. Diodorus, via Epirus, details the thoroughness. Ash layers 2 feet thick per 2005 digs. Structures toppled. Virgins' chambers razed. Their erasure a strike at lineage cults. Impacts. Delian League's birth. Tributes funding rebuilds. Not stone scorched, but memory-seared immortals' torches forging a scar on Hellas's psyche, ghosts rising from embers. The fabric incinerated, piety's threads ash, leaving a nation to reweave from wrath. The fifth act unfolded in occupation's hush, the machine's afterglow enforcing submission under a sky wept grey by dawn's remorse. Eighth morning, 40 degrees biting through threadbare wool, the wind moaning dirges through gutted columns, carrying ash's bitter dust to choke the time. The Acropolis smouldered, Erechtheion a husk of twisted bronze. Athenaeon's pediment crashed amid votives melted to slag. Handfuls survived priestesses like survivors, eyes hollow as burnt sockets, robes charred to shifts. Salamis boiled now, Greek fleets massing, but here, Persians quartered, immortals patrolling precincts, their spears grounded in sacred soil. Camp sprawled to the Areopagus, satraps feasting on looted kid and figs, the air thick with roast and regret's undernote. Textures lingered, soot, grimed marble smooth under fleeing feet, the crunch of shattered terracotta under patrols. Phoebe, 30, Archiaria from Kid Athenaeon's looms, vowed at 17 after plague took her house, her essence steadfast as an anchor, voice a balm in processions, silver streaks in auburn hair. She thought of unfinished peplos, threads dangling like fates. Tension simmered as immortals, inventoried statues toppled, tripods tallied their hands profane on relics, a final desecration in ledger's ink. Phoebe hid in a crevice, breath shallow, witnessing carts laden with Gorgon masks, her heart fracturing as a final altar was smashed, fragments grinding under boot. Occupation dragged days, patrols despoiling groves, the sacred olive stump, a stump of hope, while news of Salamis's horns echoed faint. The holdouts emerged, led to judgment, their silence a testament amid the ruins' hush. This lingering grip revealed the system's sustainability. Occupation as administration, immortals securing while engineers sketched Persepolis replicas. It fit Susa's protocol's garrison to consolidate. In Kabul's fall, Taliban patrols echo, per Reuters. Pausanias's tours note the scars, 20th century thermoluminescence dating the ash to 480. Roles dissolved, virgins from vessels to vessels of memory, their survival seeds of cult revival. Society scarred, ostracism spiked post-war, paranoia of medusas. Not just temples held, but the idea of inviolacy, immortals' watch, a chain on Greek divinity, ghosts patrolling the pyre's edge. The weave, though burnt, held embers for rebirth. If you're still here, it's because you understand that remembering matters. These phases weren't isolated barbarisms, but a blueprint etched in time's ledger. What comes next is harder, the machines crack amid greater churn. You can pause, reflect. For those pressing on, let's trace the fracture together, where hubris met the sea's rebuke. While Hydarnes's immortals patrolled the Acropolis's ashes, Xerxes made one crucial error, underestimating the wooden walls Themistocles divined. His fleet's arrogance, drawing 370 Greek triremes into Salamis's narrows like fish to a net. The conspiracy brewed not in Persian tents, but Greek councils conspirators a motley of exiles and strategoi. Themistocles, silver-tongued architect of Laurion's mines, his motivations rooted in prophecy and patriotism, eyes sharp as a raptor's. Aristides, the just, ostracized yet recalled, driven by incorruptible honor. His plain chiton, a rebuke to bribe-takers. Eurybiades, Spartan Norarch, grudging ally, swayed by omens. His Laconian brevity, masking fear of Helot's revolt. Numbering perhaps a dozen core plotters, Spartan envoys, Aeginetan captains, Athenian rowers whispers they met in Salamis's cave shrine, oil lamps flickering on Pallas's icon, voices hushed over barley cakes. Their motivations layered like oars in bank. Themistocles, haunted by Delphic riddles, saw navy as salvation. His feigned defection to Sicinus, a trusted eunuch, baiting Xerxes with false intelligence of Greek flight. Aristides rode across straits under moonless sky, delivering warnings of trap, his sodden form collapsing on Piraeus strand, driven by justice's fire. Better defeat united than victory divided. Eurybiades, chafing at Athenian command, yielded to Euripus's tide's divine sign, a whirlpool swallowing a Medusa's skiff. Plot unfolded in whispers, false deserters in Persian guise urging channel pursuit, while Greek beacons misled scouts. Tension crested September 27, narrows choked with 800 Persian hulls, their painted eyes glaring, rowers chants a drone over waves slapping hulls. He aimed his overreach at the wrong element, the sea, mistress of Greeks. Present tense grips. Dawn breaks crimson over Citalia Isle, triremes creak in swell, Themistocles paces, deck, beard salt, crusted, murmuring Nike, aid us. Persian van rams forward, rams splintering on shoals, Greek flanks wheeling like falcons, bronze beaks gutting keels amid screams and splinter crack. Chaos blooms, oars tangle, hulls ground, immortals aboard drowning in leather-weighted plunge, waters churning red as winepress. Xerxes watches from Mount Aeschylus, throne canopied in gold, face paling as his brother drowns, grabbed by Aminias's spear. By noon, 200 Persian ships kindling pyres, the rest fleeing to Phaleron. Greek cheers a thunder rolling back to Athens' ruins. Xerxes' death? No, his retreat. Bridges severed by storm's lash, army melting north in winter's bite, 40,000 stragglers per Herodotus, trails littered with unburied. Conspirators fared mixed. Themistocles ostracized in 471, exile to Argos. Aristides slain at Plataea's eve, heart failing mid-battle. Eurybiades honored in Sparta, statue at Tanarum. Power transferred to Mardonius, left with 300,000 to winter in Thessaly. But chaos erupted, Boeotian revolts, supply lines frayed, Thebans plotting double cross. Others perished. Artabazus fled with 40,000. Hydarnes scapegoated in Susa whispers, Magi exiled for failed portents. Immediate anarchy. Looters stripped Persian dead on Salamis strand. Greek slaves freed amid revels, but Athens lay barren, refugees returning to ash sifts, wolves howling in the agora. This is what happens when the machine breaks. It devours indiscriminately, gears grinding loyalists and lords alike. Yet the system survived. Mardonius' spring push to Plataea, a last gasp. Crushed in 479, his body trampled in flight. The blueprint endured, Xerxes brooding in Persepolis, his pathologies festering into paranoia's throne. Empire staggered, but the erasure's logic persisted, a ghost in every satrap's scroll. In 1832, amid Ottoman Athens' rubble irony's echo, a German excavator named Ludwig Ross, sweat-streaked under summer's blaze, pried at the Acropolis' north slope, his spade clanging against something unyielding. Heart-pounding, he unearthed a layer. Ash, blackened earth, 18 inches thick, studded with median arrowheads, their iron tips corroded green, mingled with charred ivory from a gorgoneion frieze. Once Athena's fierce ward. Nearby, a fillet of gold thread, twisted as if clutched in final prayer, lay beside a shard inscribed to Pallas Athene from Lysandra's kin. Ross, hands trembling, dated it via stratigraphy below Cycladic pottery, above Simonian rebuilds, later confirmed by 1,950 seconds carbon-14 assays at Oxford, pinning the blaze to 480 BC's isotopic signature. The find sprawled 200 square meters, a palimpsest of profanation. Olive pit, carbonized mid-prayer offering, a kanephoroi statuette beheaded, its marble eyes staring blind. What they felt? Ross wept, per his journal, the weight of 2,300 years, crashing like a Themistoclean wave, not victory's spoil, but violation's scar, whispering of virgins, led silent into night. Why it matters unfurls like a scroll in that dig's dust. This wasn't parochial piety's loss, but power's perennial tactic, defiled to delegitimize, turning sacred cause to cautionary voids. Connect to now. In Kiev's cathedrals shelled by Grad rockets, or Yemen's mosques mined, the echo resounds, UN rapporteurs citing Herodotus in briefs on cultural erasure. Psychologically, it unveils pathologies, Xerxes' transformation from loss, haunted prince, to erasure engine, a mirror to modern autocrats' archive, burnings, where Freudian shadows drive systemic cruelty. Remembering fortifies Plataea's 10,000 Greek spears, forged in Acropolis outrage, birthed the Delian League. Athens' hegemony, a phoenix from ash. Parallels, chill. Alexander's Persepolis torch in 330 BC. Plutarch claiming Themistocles' vengeance, a cycle's link. Insights abound. Resilience's roots in ritual. Virgins' implied resistance fillets clutched. Chants, silenced, a testament to unbroken will. It's not about God's caprice, but humanity's. What power attempts when it eyes eternity, and how the erased refuse oblivion. The empire spanned 1,200 years. Bridges spanning continents, but couldn't quench 20 women's firelit vows. Think on that, the Parthenon's later rise, Phidias's gold and ivory Athena, a rebuttal carved in marble, votive to the defiled. They were meant to vanish, those sacred virgins. Lysandra's prayers scattered like ash on Ilissos winds. Irena's incense curls lost to time's indifferent gale. Calliope's tapestry threads unraveled in occupation's loom. That was the blueprint, etched in Xerxes' edicts and Immortals' ledgers. Erasure absolute, from fillet to memory. But they didn't vanish. They're etched still, in Ross's trembling spade turn, in the 1832 journal pages yellowing in Heidelberg's vaults, in the Acropolis's stratigraphic wounds that tourists trace with reverent fingers today, in the gold threads twist, defying 2,500 winters, and the arrowheads rust, silent witnesses to impiety's fall. And now, they're here with you, in this recounting's quiet pulse, because you chose immersion over evasion, reflection over recoil. You chose to let their silence shatter into speech. Athena Nike, Prostotia, in the ancient Dorian, the plea carved on a surviving base. Athena of victory, stand before us. Athena of victory, stand before us. You're not merely a reader, adrift in words. You're a witness, and witnesses are the sinew-binding epochs, the refusal that keeps history's horrors from metastasizing into complacency. To witness is to incur debt to the Lysandras, who clutched branches amid flames, their unvoiced last thoughts a bulwark against the machine. To the systems we inherit, laced with that same erasure's code, from algorithmic biases, silencing voices, to border walls, profaning hospitality's ancient code. These stories matter because they map the fault lines where power's protocol meets piety's plea, where modern occupations drone-shadowed markets in Gaza, shelled schools in Idlib echo the Acropolis pyre, urging us to ask, what sanctuary do we defile today? We owe the past, not pity's tear, but action's forge, amplifying archives, challenging narratives written by victors, ensuring survivors' ink outlasts conquerors' blades. In grappling this darkness, we light paths conversations that transmute trauma to teaching, where a comment below might spark another's dig, unearthing another thread. If this narrative stirred you, if the Immortals' tread still echoes in your chest, reminding why remembrance is rebellion, leave a thought in the comments. What line lingered? Which parallel pricked? Pose your queries. These dialogues, raw as a spade's first strike, are how we deny the ghosts their final victory. If voices like the kanephorois meant for ash, but rising insistent, deserve amplification, subscribe. Not for metrics tally, but for the buried calls. Every silence shattered honors the virgins who refused the pyre's hush. For every story still chained in contested scrolls, waiting a modern Ross.